Welcome, great researchers and doctors and engineers of Al Hussein International School. Welcome to a new online session of our biology curriculum. This is Dr. Ines, and let's begin. Today we are still talking about our body. It will be Unit 9, Human Biology, Chapter 33, Protection, Support and Movement. We are still talking about skeletal system, section 33.1, and of course it's in our course book part 2, page 937 and 938. The materials that I need you to have for our session today, of course, is our course book opened at the required pages and our copybook and a pen to record the important points. In the previous session, we talked about the skeletal system, and we agreed that our skeletal system is formed of appendicular and axial skeleton, and I told you that our skeletal system contains different components like ligaments, cartilage, and joints. And we agreed that we are going to talk about joints in details in this session. So, by the end of this session, inshallah, you will be able to mention what's meant by a joint, list types of joints, and identify the function of different types of joints. As usual, I will mute your sound. If you want to ask me, raise your hands, and if you have a question, write it, and by the end of the session, if I didn't answer it through the explanation, I will give you time to ask. So, look at this picture. This act, we do it every day. While we are going out, or we are exercising at home, or we are doing something, we are going to do something, we do this act. We bend, and then we tie our shoes. Do you think that we will be able to do this act if we don't have joints? Yes, excellent. Of course we will not be able to do it. If we don't have joints, we will never be able to do different acts throughout our day. And actually, this is the idea of joints. So, joints are considered as a junction between two bones. Okay, it's a junction between bones. It's not important that it will be between two bones. It can be between more than one bone. But as long as there is a junction between two bones, this is a joint. The importance of this joint is to give the bones the space to grow, so it allows them to grow and enable your body to move freely, and this is the most important function of joints. So now, if you are asked about joint, what do you think, Dr. Ali or Dr. Meher or Dr. Aida? You will simply answer that a joint is a junction between bones. What if you are asked another question? Do we have different types of joints all over our body? Actually, the answer will be yes. Scientists divide joints according to structure and range of movement. Let's see how. According to structure, joints are divided into three main types: fibrous, cartilaginous, and synovial. Okay? Fibrous joints, the range of movement is that they are very limited or immovable. Cartilaginous joints, and from this name they are supported with cartilage, and from the previous session we discussed the meaning of cartilage. They are considered as joints that allow or semi-movable range of movement to my body. Semi-movable means limited movement, while the synovial joints are the commonest joints in our body that allow us to move freely, so they are freely movable. So, a fibrous joint is between two bones attached by fibrous connective tissue, and it provides little or even no movement. The commonest example of a fibrous joint is a joint between your skull bones. Actually, if we look at your skull, you will find that we have, and it's impossible by the way, you will find that there are sutures in between the bones of your skull. It can be applied by x-rays, okay? So this is considered as a joint. Why? Because it's a junction between two bones. Does it move? No, it has no movement. So it's considered as a fibrous joint. The second type of joint is a cartilaginous joint. From its name, it's supported by cartilage in between these bones, and it allows for a very limited movement or sometimes no movement, but as long as it has cartilage, it is considered as cartilaginous joint. The commonest type of joints all over our body is a synovial joint. A synovial joint is a joint that is cushioned with cartilage and held by ligaments. So this joint is supported by many structures. Why? Because it moves all of the time and it can move freely. And that's why it has to be supported by ligaments and cartilage. We have 5 types of synovial joints according to their way of movement: gliding, pivot, pole and socket, saddle and hinge joint. Let's see. If you look at this picture, we will begin with the gliding joints. Gliding joints are like the joints in between bones in our wrist and ankle, okay? They are like this picture. Their range of movement is sliding and twisting movement. They slide over each other like this, and sometimes can twist around its axis. So this is a type of a range of movement for a gliding joint. Where can I find it? In wrist and ankle. The second type of synovial joint is the pivot joint. This joint has the ability to rotate around its central axis. The commonest example of it is the atlas joints, or the joints in our backbones, vertebral cord. The third type of synovial joint is a very common type, important type by the way. It looks like a ball inserted in a socket, and that's why it's called the pole and socket joint. Its range of movement is that it allows or permit movements in all planes, in different directions. So you can kick the ball, raise anything with your hand. It's mainly found in our shoulder and the hip joints. The fourth type of our synovial joints is called saddle joint. In the saddle joint, this joint between two bones allow movement in two planes, right? This side, and that's it. 2 directions only. Actually, it's found in between the fingers, in the thumb finger, in the lower part, and it only allow movement in 2 planes only. The fifth and last type of our synovial joint is the hinge joint. And it's called a hinge because it looks like the hinge of the doors. Okay, it has a limited movement in forward and backward, only forward and backward. It cannot move freely. Okay, so the commonest example of our hinge joint is excellent elbow in our arm and knee in our legs. Excellent. Finally, if you look at this picture, you will find out that this picture, and if you do this act, it will summarize all types of synovial joints inside your body. Actually, if you do this act, all joints all over your body will act. We will have here at our wrist, the gliding joint gives flexibility to the wrist, and then if you go to the neck, we have the pivot joint that gives flexibility to the neck, And then we have ball and socket in between the shoulders, and actually we have also ball socket here and the pelvis, allow flexibility at this place. And then we have the saddle for your fingers so they can do this act. And then we have the hinge joint here, and also we have hinge joint here. So this summarize all types of synovial joints inside my body. I need you to think about the answer of this question. Why do you think ligaments, and we talked about ligaments in the previous session, are found mainly in the appendicular skeleton? And I told you that the appendicular skeleton is a skeleton that involves our limbs, but not in the axial. Excellent. Because appendicular skeleton needs to move. It contains most of the synovial joints, and it needs to be supported. As long as there are great movement, it needs to be supported, and that's why ligaments are mainly found here. So today we talked about joints. It's a place where two bones meet, and we divided joints according to structure and movement. This is a very useful link that you can use to know more about joints if you would like to watch it. Thank you very, very much for listening to me, and thank you for sending me the feedbacks each session. I need you to stay safe and to keep calm, and thank you very much. Watch this video for me. See you.
No. Yep. 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 No. Yep.
Be safe, stay calm, and be happy. See you next session. Thank you very much. Goodbye.